The Break Beach Bar, in conjunction with Tell Staffing and HR, bring you Play Harder Radio, the Gulf Coast premier sports and BS talk show. Things that matter in the world of sports, and things that don't matter to anyone. It's just Faja's opinion. Where the F-bomb is allowed, but frowned upon. This is Play Harder Radio. And now, your hosts, Chad Colquitt and James Grant. All right, we're back. A week off, but we're back. Thanks for joining us again on Play Harder Radio. My name's Jim Grant. Faja to some, Faja to a bunch. Faja to a bunch. I'm kind of sharing it out here still on, I forgot to put it on Messenger. It's easy to share on there.
Oh, okay.
It's a good way to put it out.
Messenger. Okay.
Facebook Messenger, you know.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Get with it.
I sent it to at least one person via that.
Oh, that's good. That's good. Welcome back. As I said, crazy week weather-wise. Dreary, a little bit dreary the last few days, last couple of days, especially today. Overcast and rainy all day, right?
Yeah, it was nasty. I mean,
are you busy or something?
Busy over here? Yeah, kind of. But
what are you doing?
Pushing buttons. Push buttons.
Right.
If you're from Boston or
button. Yeah, I don't even know how to say it.
I got a friend of mine that he was a trainer for GE that used to talk like that.
I think I'm just about to where I can quit.
Somebody likes your hat, by the way.
Oh yeah? Was that a comment?
Yeah, on Facebook. Yeah.
Hell yeah, they like my hat.
Yeah.
1776.
Let's see, get a closer look at it here. There we go.
You don't need to be messing around too much with it. This show's not about me. It's about the listeners.
We know better. Okay, the listeners.
What are you saying?
Just the listeners that like you, right? Is that the...
Yeah.
Just the... It's about you, the listeners, that like me, Faja.
Oh, yeah. Boy. Brought to you by Tell Staffing and HR. You know, you probably didn't get in business to do HR, to do payroll and human resources and benefits and stuff. So you do what you got in business to do, which is what you do best, and let Tell do what they do best and handle that stuff for you. Call them. Also by Rev Essentials, Kat Armenteros, no complex diets, just the essentials, counseling, coaching, consultation, welcome home. You'll see their contact information scrolling across the screen or on the TV as we go, so you can figure out how to contact them there. Or we'll put it in the notes maybe afterwards. So... You know, tonight, I think we're going to go off the reservation a little bit. I don't usually like to talk politics, but I think that a lot of what's going on in the country right now is kind of tough for everybody. A lot of people are finding it tough financially. The whole COVID thing has been tough for everybody. Yeah, there's just a lot of divide. And, you know, I titled the show tonight, I think we have more in common than we think we do. Because it's my contention, I've said this for a while, that 80 to 90% of us, 90% of us actually have 90% of our values in line. I think we have a lot in common.
I agree.
So we're going to talk a little bit about that tonight. And what we're going to talk about, what I want to talk about, and I want to keep it, I came across an article by Christian Elliott. And Christian is the founder of, I think it's, let's see here. Yeah, True Whole Human. True Whole Human. He's a coach, counselor. I know you had it on there.
Do you want to put his thing up?
Yeah, put his thing up.
Okay.
I'm doing a bad job.
There we
So
go.
put his thing up.
Yeah.
Is it on there?
Yeah. You won't see it, but it's up there.
Oh, it is? Okay.
Somebody is asking to come in the waiting room. I'll admit them.
Yeah, let him in. So the Zoom ID is on the header. Zoom ID 861-968-6589. So feel free to zoom in or comment on the video that you're watching, on the live video that you're watching. I'm going to start mine here. I'm going to try, and you're paying attention to the chat, right?
Yeah.
Let him in. So the Zoom ID
Okay.
is on the header. Zoom ID. Why am I hearing that now?
That's
6589.
Is that Dan? Is that Dan?
Dan.
I just shut it off.
Jeez. I mean, this
You
is
hear
your
me?
yeah. This is your third time, and we still have to have this conversation,
No, you know how it is
That's
up here. We just us, hillbillies from up north aren't
right?
like technologically expert.
You said it. No, that's-
And your grammar is perfect.
Yeah. Glad you noticed.
Dan puts me to shame as a writer and as a thinker, actually. So this is Dan
I wouldn't
Begley.
say that.
Dan Begley, a friend of mine from when I was living in Baltimore, is going to be is my guest tonight. So tonight's subject is actually, so I came across Christian Elliott's article, truewholehuman.com. Go there. His stuff's on the screen. You can see it. So Dan, is Dan on video?
Dan is not yet. I am doing something else
Okay.
right now.
Okay. But anyway, he wrote an article called 18 Reasons Why I Won't Be Getting a COVID Vaccine.
Oh, did Dan write that?
No. Did I say that?
No, you said
Christian Elliott.
Oh, this is who wrote that. Oh, that's awesome. I liked it. Okay. I didn't know who this guy was.
This is what happens when you get here late and you're not up to date
Would you have told me
for the
anyway?
production meeting.
Would you have told me anyway ahead of time?
You know I wouldn't.
Okay.
You know
fine.
that it's only whatever fits my agenda that,
That's
at
right.
the moment.
I understand.
That's life.
I'm flying by the seat of my pants over here.
Right.
So,
And I'm a well-prepared and thought out ahead of time type of person.
that's right.
Dan knows that, right, buddy?
You got it. You've been that way for as long as I've known you.
My kids are rolling their eyes right now. They're probably not listening, so whatever. They're
Kids
like,
are funny like that.
I'm like, you guys never listen to my show. I'm like, you guys
So,
suck.
like, you've got a show.
They're
Dan?
like, we're not interested in what you talk about.
One day they
Of course
will.
not.
And then you'll be dead. No.
Yeah, Jared's like, I don't really like the sports you talk about, so, I'd rather go to
You
bed.
talk about all the good sports. I don't know how he would not like
He
that.
didn't inherit my baseball, basketball, football love.
Okay, so Dan's on.
Okay.
there.
So
Okay. I can't see Jim though.
Oh, here. Yeah, that's right. Let me fix that for you. There you go.
I mean,
Yeah,
every week
okay,
it's
that's
like
good.
we're starting over.
Well, I didn't.
Yeah, I know.
figured they
Who
know
is
who
this
you are.
producer
They
you
know
have?
what you look like.
Unbelievable. Unbelievable.
Talk about us northerners. You guys from down south better get
Somebody
to
asked,
it too.
yeah, right. Somebody asked me somebody asked me recently if I can't believe this is too funny. It works out too good. If I identify, I don't think they said that, but I like to say that because, I am a provocateur of that kind of thing. But if I identify as a northerner or a southerner,
Oh, I can't wait to hear this.
I love the South, man. I love it down here. I love the
Yeah,
South.
I know you do.
I consider this home now. Bury
should, 'cause
bury
you live
me
there.
here. I'm not even halfway done, I don't think. So it's going to be a while before you get to bury me.
You'd be 122 or 24 by the time you die.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Knowing you, you'd probably figure out how to do that.
I'm Offrey. I'm Offrey. I'm ornery enough, I think.
Yeah, you know what they say.
My brother said that was on you, Jim, but I don't know what I did. You got to be more specific, Dan.
Me?
No, not you, my brother Dan.
Dan Grant.
Dan Grant. Yeah. He You know what? I'm flattered. I think he's listened to us 2 shows in a row.
Must be me.
I would
He
guess.
shows
I would
up to
guess.
listen to me.
I would guess. That's the common denominator for sure, because the other shows you haven't been on, he doesn't listen. Tom Pino, what's up, brother? Tommy's a good friend here in Pensacola. Yeah, I love it here. I think I identify as a Southerner.
You know what though? Here's what I think about Pensacola. I've only been there once, and it was great. You guys are great down there. I would just say Pensacola is kind of like the North Country of Florida.
Right?
It's got the 4 seasons. It's got stuff that you're used to.
Not
just
the
to
hotel.
extreme.
Not the hotel. Actual 4 seasons.
Yeah, right. The 4 seasons of weather.
I knew what you meant. I'm just being funny.
Right. Well, you're always funny. Ha ha.
Right. I don't know why we're doing this video. Face for radio, they say.
Yeah, I
Me
know.
and
That's
me
what
and
Al says.
Al Randall and I have that in common.
Yeah. You're both, well spoken over the airwaves. So
Hey, I want you to pay attention to my lack of. I'm putting myself out there now. I just did it, and I'm saying to pay attention to it. My lack of us. I'm really working on that.
yeah, that's good.
So
Yeah.
So call him out, Dan, whenever you hear one. Okay.
you know
Well,
what's
there's a kangaroo court in the world of sports, and Jim knows this. If you happen to have a faux pas, bad language, do something stupid, you go in front of the court in the clubhouse and you get fined, and all that money goes into a jar. So that's what we'll have to do. We'll have the kangaroo court for Jim's oohs, ahs, and uhs.
oohs, ahs, and
If we
uhs.
made it into a drinking game, it might be more entertaining.
You know who the first person to call? Dan, do you know who the first person to call me out on it was?
Oh,
My brother relayed the message from his son, Max. He's like, he says a lot.
Max could do well in the broadcast arena
He could.
if he chose to. Yeah.
He could.
I was impressed. He kept his cool. He was thoughtful. He was able to communicate quite clearly. So
He had
he's got a lot going for him.
well thought out question for Al last time.
Right. We just got to talk to him about, his uncertainty about whether or not he's going to continue with the greatest game on the face of the
On the
planet.
face of the planet.
Yeah.
So I
Right.
talked to his dad after that show, and he said, well, he's always going to play hockey.
Yeah.
He's always going to play hockey. Whether he stays
Yeah.
at this competitive level and tries to go somewhere with it, that's another question.
Okay. Here's the thing about hockey. I just made this up.
Oh, this is going
This
to
is
be
very-
profound. This is going to
Very,
be
very
profound.
astute observation. You don't get to retire from hockey. Hockey decides when you retire.
Okay, Max,
Right?
I hope you're listening, Max. Max is a badass.
I believe it. He comes from your genes.
He's a very humble and awesome kid, and I try to get him to be a little bit meaner when he's playing?
Well, mean and chippy and that kind of stuff, depending on the you got to play within the edge.
Not
Edge
Ty
is probably a
Domi.
better
Not Ty Domi.
Yeah. Well, Ty Domi, had skills, but his foremost skill was with Chuck and Knuckles.
Was being a douche.
So, well, he just had a job. That's all.
He got on somebody the other night. I was Blackhawks, I believe. I can't remember Campbell. I can't remember who he got the penalty on, but he got a hooking penalty that ticked him off, and so we cross-checked him in the back.
You're talking about Max Domi.
Is Ty still around?
No, he's been retired for years.
Is that a son?
Yeah, Max is Ty's son.
Yeah, well, he obviously comes from the same genes as well.
They're Albanians.
Are
That's
they?
their heritage. Yep.
An Albanian gave me my nickname.
Taja.
Isn't that funny?
Yeah.
Isn't that funny? So
okay.
what else you
go
got?
ahead.
What else you got?
Me?
How's your week been?
It's busy. It's crazy. This I don't even know how to describe it. It's unexplainable, I guess. The greater Washington mid-Atlantic area is very active in what I'm involved in, which surprised me, with what's going on here the last 14, 16 months, whatever it's been that the pandemic's been, around. So, yeah, I just keep waiting for it to quit. And I don't know if it's going to. Maybe 2022. We'll see some.
We'll see.
Yeah.
I hear that DC, though, as a rule, maybe it's governmentally or whatever, is kind of dead.
Well, the federal projects, there's not as many of them being put out to bid, and those that were put out to bid are kind of on hold.
Right.
So a lot of the public work, schools in particular, if you look at Northern Virginia,
Right.
Many of the bigger, and there's, those school districts are huge, as you know. Like Prince William County, for example, I think they have 30,000 plus students. They have 250 or so buildings, and there's no students in any buildings. And it's been that way since like February or March of 2020. I just talked to a guy the other day who's a friend of mine who's got his son would be a senior, is a senior this year in high school. He has not been to school since March of 2020. So that was, half of his, 2/3 of his a third of his junior year is gone, and his entire senior year without circulation with any of his classmates. And I can't imagine that,
Right.
How does that affect somebody down the road? What feelings do you get from getting cheated, if you will, out of that experience?
Right. Well, we'll get into that in a little bit because there's been the whole. So tonight, I'll say a little bit about what we're going to talk about tonight, and then I want to go back for a second and point out a couple things, little things. But I think there's a huge divide in the country right now. Well, I mean, I don't think there is. We know there is. And as I mentioned earlier, the title of the show tonight is I think we have a lot more in common than we think we do. I think that 80-90% of us, our values align 80 to 90%. 80-90% of our values are the same.
Agreed.
responsibility, respect. Our kids, we raise our kids to responsibility, respect. You earn your way through life, type of thing. So, but what I wanted to point out, what I wanted to point out was in the new T-shirt, the
Let me look at that.
Till Valhalla Project T-shirt.
Nice.
Yeah, sweet. Now I didn't realize this, but now I have the green one, the blue one, and a black one. They're all the same.
Ooh.
With that flag on the front. They're sweet. The We the People T-shirt with the Gadsden flag snake on there, 13 stars. So, go figure. Yeah, I'm crazy. But so I wanted to point those out. My 1776. I don't remember what it says. Can you read it, Todd? Freedom. Forever
Leave
freedom.
your hand.
Forever freedom.
Free. Yeah.
Hey, don't talk to me with that attitude.
Oh, I'm sorry. You're
That's-
like going.
that's
you're going,
me.
You're like doing like this.
That's me that does that.
You're like going. Read this.
Todd, I want you to know that my brother
Yeah.
busts my ass good
Oh, okay.
whenever I am out of line with you.
Oh, does he? Good.
He's like,
Good.
you're an asshole to
Yeah.
Todd. Stop
Yeah,
it.
don't treat Todd that way. You
So,
should double Todd's salary.
right? Well, we
right.
will tonight.
Okay.
I'm going to get you 2 energy drinks
Oh, okay.
instead
Good.
of 1.
Good.
So tonight, the article, Dan, the article, I forwarded it to you, right?
Yep. I got
18
it.
reasons why. I'm not making a play for you not to get the vaccine. I'm just.
No, I know.
I'm just no for anybody. In my opinion, you get it, you don't. As long as we have a choice, whether we get it or whether we don't, and how our life goes on with it or without it, it's all good by me. Right?
I'm with you. in
If
that
you have,
camp.
if it's a choice, go for it, man. I have a personal opinion about it, but I don't want to get. That's not what we're going to talk about tonight. We're just going to talk about. I found this article, and we're just going to talk. I thought he made 18 good points, and we're going to talk about that.
Do you want to go through all 18 points, or do you want to paraphrase, or how do you want to do it?
Well, we'll probably
Because-
paraphrase through them. Oh, by the way, the link for the article is in the header on YouTube and on Facebook. There's a link for the article on there if you'd like to get it and look at it, share it, whatever.
I read it. It's great.
Yeah, I think it's great too.
With anything though, I'm kind of like, okay, how much of this is true? And that's the thing you worry about. I mean, I'm assuming it is, but I mean, it.
Well, I think he's a health coach, and I would say life coach, and I think his business would be best suited by it being true what he wrote. He also gave supporting links to things that he
Yeah, that would have taken forever to read that too.
asserts.
It was 18 things I had to read. I was
Right.
busy.
Yeah. So Dan, we can kind of go through some of them quickly, and maybe we'll just decide whether we talk a little bit more about that one or not, and we can do it that way.
Yeah. So, if you look at, let me get to it here.
And look for John to be checking in.
Okay. Yeah, I'm keeping an eye on the Zoom here also.
Okay. Well, number one, vaccine makers are immune from liability. Okay.
Yeah, I knew that was the case. Yeah. But that's been the case for years with just vaccines in general. Any vaccine. You knew that, right?
Since 1986, if you read the article.
Oh, has it been? Yeah. So that's one of those that it's just like, okay, that's just scary that was the case in the first place.
Yeah, I think that what the author is pointing out is, if somebody doesn't know this, they should, right?
Right.
And it goes to making an individual decision about whether or not to get it. So these are, I think, logical thoughts, all 18 of them, to, not to influence, but to
Educate.
at least educate. Right. Good word.
Yeah, actually, very good. So when it gets down to it, his opinion is, Christian's opinion is, no liability, no trust. Which,
Right.
let's just say in life, right? If you don't have any liability for whatever you do, well, what's to hold you back?
Well, there's very few places in our society where people, entities, companies, corporations can be held completely without liability. Okay.
Right.
And I think what he's trying to underline here, this is just my take on it, is that this is such a huge, huge situation that we're in. Here's one of those cases where, as big as the problem is, the potential solution or part of the solution is exempt from, any liability. So how do you, as a rational person, how do you, look at that and go, okay, well, that's okay, totally okay with me, right?
Right.
And I think that's the question that he's trying to get people to ask themselves. Are you okay with a scenario where there's producers of the vaccine that don't have any liability, and underscore the time frame in which these current vaccines were produced? A very short period of time.
Oh yeah. Well, we're going to get to that I think at number 3. But the thing I wanted to say was when vaccines, when we were kids, what did we get vaccines for? Measles, mumps, and chickenpox?
Polio.
But
Okay.
they were like proven that they work.
Yeah, right. But I'm just saying,
Correct.
how many, we got like 4 or 5 or,
Yeah.
I mean, what other besides that, Dan?
The only one the ones that you mentioned are the only ones I can think of.
Right.
There probably were others, but I was reading recently, and I don't want to be, held to account for the numbers, but about polio and what effect that had on society, and the caseload of polio victims was surprisingly small. Okay.
Before the
problem
vaccine?
Yes.
Okay.
As a percentage,
right.
But it was highly contagious. Okay. Through a couple of different means. Generally through person to person, but, and airborne, but primarily, unsanitary scenario with fecal matter. So, I mean, there's probably somebody out there that could shoot this all to smithereens, but the biggest issue with polio was that it was terrifying for families.
Right.
So the polio season would come along, summer, pools, whatever, kids out playing around each other.
Right.
You get in the pool water, whatever, and that freaked out mom and dad. So, during some of those years, kids weren't going to pool because of that till the vaccine was developed. But the polio vaccine, or the polio disease, was pretty devastating. So, yeah, I mean, the point made earlier about them being proven, that I don't know how long that vaccine took to develop, but it certainly was probably over a year. Took over a year to do
yeah.
it, compared to what we're seeing with these vaccines.
Yeah, this just, when we get to number 3, we'll talk a little bit more about that, and the point I was going to make about us getting 4 vaccines back when we were kids, somebody said to me today that their number was like it's in the 30s now or something like that. Different things that they get vaccinated for. I don't know if that's, I didn't research that, but
Well, my kids are adults, so I'm far beyond knowing what that would look like. My wife
It's-
would probably be a better able to answer that question.
it's
I wouldn't
changed a
doubt it.
lot.
I
It's
wouldn't
changed
doubt
a
it.
lot since we were kids. Let's
Yeah.
put it that way.
Yeah.
I think it just gradually has climbed, and there's the anti-vaxxers out there, and I haven't thought about it. We never really thought about it because our kids are adults now, so we haven't had to think about it.
Yeah. And
Number-
I think, there's a history to this stuff too, that, you got the longer things, the farther you get from the initiation of the vaccine, the initial offering of the vaccine years and years later, it's probably out of most people's minds, the thought of anything that could go wrong.
Right.
But I know you want to get to number 3 before we talk about this. But
number 2 is the checkered past of vaccine companies. 3
Right.
things. The 4 major companies who are making the vaccines, number 1, never brought a vaccine to market before, Moderna and Johnson & Johnson. Are serial felons, Pfizer and AstraZeneca, and are both Johnson & Johnson.
right.
Well, I was thinking the other day that this would be if something does go wrong, most of the time people are just like anti-big pharma, and pharma spends so much money in R&D and everything else that it's kind of like, well, that's why they have to charge what they do, most of the time. But I could see where this would be a perfect scenario for the government to, you just got to take over the pharmaceutical companies because look at what they've done, if something did go bad. But anyway, that was just something I thought.
Right.
Well, I don't think that's, if we're going to talk like that, I don't think that's out of the question in the future. Assume worst case scenario. We talked about this earlier, Jim and I. Nobody's even sure how long the protection of the vaccine is good for. So
Because it's mutated.
what happens? Yeah, what happens? Do we, a year from now, get phase 2 of the vaccine? Then a year later,
Well, they're
phase
talking
3
like
of
it's
the
going to be
vaccine?
just like the flu. They're already prepping people to think about it like, oh, you're going to have to get it every year.
Yeah, and so if you're wanting to look at nefarious motives, which some people do, it's a legitimate question. Okay, what's
Right.
the money scenario? It's always about the money.
They always say follow the money.
So you've got trillions of dollars potentially at stake here for these companies.
Indeed.
So if you're the government, if you're the government, okay, here's a question I'll throw at you two guys. If you're the government and you see this coming, would there be any thought put to additional taxation on the development and production of vaccinations as a means of control of those drug companies?
I would assume
I
not.
mean, that's yeah, but I mean, would it be something that should be considered?
well,
They're definitely not going to do it on behalf of the government, for nothing.
right. Well, which I didn't really want to get into the political side, but yeah,
Right.
do I think it should be considered? No. Would some? I'm sure. So,
Right.
but number 2, just let's get out of number 2. But just the one thing about number 2 is 3 out of the 4 the vaccine makers have been sued for products they brought to market, even though they knew injuries and deaths would result.
Mhm.
I mean,
It's alarming.
So, do I trust them? No. No liability, no trust.
Right.
Number 3, the ugly history. They've been trying to produce a coronavirus vaccine for 20 years and haven't been able to do so because the test subjects, which there were not, they skipped the animal. That was the 60s. They skipped the animal trials, but since then, the reason that it's failed since 2000 is the animals were getting sick and dying with everything that they developed. So they could never get anything put together to bring to market.
Yeah.
I didn't know that until I read this, that they've been trying to make this vaccine for 20 years. And now they say, hey, take the vaccine, but it hasn't, they developed it in less than a year from something they weren't able to develop for 20 years.
Right. So that makes you wonder how potent the virus or the vaccine might actually be, or impotent.
Right.
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 So are we getting a watered down version of a vaccine because, they didn't have the ability to do all the trials? I mean, that's a question.
I saw a meme the other day, 2 mice in their cage.
Mm-hmm.
And one mouse asking the other mouse, are you going to get the vaccine? He's like, I don't know. They're not done testing it on the humans yet.
Yep. Right on.
So number 4 is data gaps. So it's just, that one's just kind of, there's a lot missing. Let's put it that way.
Right.
In what was submitted to the FDA. There's a lot missing. There's been number 5, there's been no access to the raw data from the trials. They say it's 90 to 95% effective, but nobody's seen the data for that. How do we know it's 90 to 95% effective?
How long is it 90 to 95% effective?
And again, I'm not trying, I just think we ought to be on the same page here. I'm not trying to tell you not to take it.
Well,
And everybody knows I'm not going to take it. I'm not going to get it.
Right.
Other people listening have already taken it, have already got it. Cool. Good.
Yep. So going back to your earlier point about being on the same page and not having, animus towards anybody that does or doesn't choose to get the vaccine. I was at dinner the other night with 3 individuals and, 4 of us at the table, and all 3 of them had been vaccinated. And they asked me, what about you? And I said, well, I haven't done it. Haven't really made a decision. And, the questions were obvious. Why, what's keeping you from doing it? And, we had a fairly lengthy conversation prior to that. So we were, engaged in the dialogue, but, essentially I said, look, for the similar reasons to what he is listing here in the 18 reasons not to get it. Okay. It's a personal choice, I think, bottom line. And if there's any hesitance or reluctance to do it, I don't know that a person should be put into some class where they're considered irresponsible or, whatever terminology you want to put on it, because it's just, there's just not enough information at this point.
Right.
And I can tell you that none of the guys that I was at dinner with had a problem with me saying what I felt.
Not taking it.
Right. And, going back to your very first point of, being on the same page, I think, all of us, whether we get it or don't, have to understand that the biggest problem we have anymore, and it goes beyond the vaccine question, is the type of communication we're having with each other. It's really not what it used to be, without getting all fluffy about it. I mean, it's, people are not face to face communicating as we had in the past. The engagement that way is diminished dramatically, with people working from home and, not in an office or whatever, or out in the neighborhood, or when things were shut down, nobody could really go anywhere in a social perspective. So, I think what happens is these kinds of conversations don't exist to the level that can help people understand either side, right?
Right.
As citizens. But I know all three of these guys are good guys. They're not, they have the values that you mentioned earlier about, work ethic and effort and responsibility and, respect, all that kind of thing. So they chose to get it, more power to them. They look at me, I'm not getting it or haven't gotten it yet, and more power to me, basically. They're not saying you need to get out of here. We don't think you're trustworthy or responsible or anything like that. You're putting people at risk. None of that occurred. So I think it's just, we're looking at some major issues from an overall communication standpoint too, that play into this whole thing.
Yeah, exactly. I that's good to hear. And I haven't, well, I guess, I haven't had a lot of real conversation with, face to face, more than just a couple words with anybody who, is taking it and I'm not, and me
Right.
not taking it and them taking it. We haven't discussed anything, more than that. I took it, I didn't, whatever type of thing.
Right.
I'm going to skip over number 6 because it's obvious there's been no long-term safety testing for the vaccine. Number 7 is no informed consent. We're really this is we're in the clinical trials right now. The people taking it are in the trial, and those of us that aren't are the control group.
Right.
So we don't even know.
Yeah, and I think what I should have said maybe is all three of those guys felt like they were doing the right thing, right?
Right.
That was the driving force. None of them were at risk, with underlying conditions or, anything that would be put them in a category of higher risk. But they just feel like this is the right thing to do. We got to move on. We got to be able to, have our lives back. So the solution to that in their mind is to get the vaccination.
Right. Yeah. So it's, we see it two different ways.
Right.
And
it's not something you can really argue about,
When does, the other thing that you just mentioned is, and that we talked about for a second, is the mutation of it, and that it could possibly be like the flu vaccine, every year type of thing. I mean, God, that just brings up the money thing again too, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, it's every year. I mean, these companies are just so. And to get to one other thing, part of my contention, like I said, most of our values align. We're fighting with each other over this, and people are, there's two factions out here in public. It seems to me, does anybody on either side really trust the government? I've heard it from both. I've heard it from both sides of the aisle that they do not.
Right.
Well, it depends on
Well,
who's in office.
Yeah.
I don't. I don't. It doesn't matter. Well, yeah, it doesn't matter who's in. For
Right.
for the most part of either side.
Right.
Is that an
I think-
uncommon
I-
opinion?
Well, I don't know how common the opinion is, but it's a very astute and logical opinion, because if you look at some of the areas, where there's been significant severe lockdowns, from a political, I know you don't want to get political, but if you start looking at parties and line that up, the argument can be made that, one side does things a certain way or tends to do things a certain way, and the other side does just the opposite.
Right.
And I think that's what's going on overall, is that we have citizens in this country that, instead of thinking about, which party it is, start thinking about, how it's affecting everybody. Okay. And logic would tell you that, like I said earlier, if I'm conservative and I vote Republican, when I get upset with Democrats, because I have a Democrat governor and he's done lots of closures and extended closures, and it really didn't seem to have much of effect on the trajectory of the disease, the illness.
Right.
But it wouldn't matter what party he's from. I didn't agree with the way it was done and the way it was handled. So I think we have to start looking at it more that way, is, forget whether it's a D or an R. Let's see if it makes sense, period. Right. And
Right.
don't hide behind some ideology that, is probably not helpful to either side. So, yeah, it's a big picture problem. And this is kind of a microcosm or micro scenario of
A bigger
this
problem.
particular thing. Right, the vaccine, the illness. It was a perfect storm for them to get involved and make it political.
So here's the next one is number 8, is underreporting. So there's the VAERS system, VAERS system, vaccine adverse events reporting system that the CDC has. So it's a system where problems with vaccines can be reported, and you can see what the problems are and what's going on out there with the vaccine. So at the date of the article, which I believe the article was this week, was like the 13th, I think. That was yesterday, 12th or the 13th. But there had been 50,861 reports
Of adverse events.
of adverse events following COVID vaccines. That's between December 14th and March 26th. 2,249 deaths, 7,726 serious injuries.
Yeah.
And so that's about 10,000, right? And then 40,000 other events.
Right.
Skin rashes, soreness, whatever. The point of number 8 is that you're only seeing about 1% of the adverse reactions.
Right.
That makes those numbers scary. I think that's something to think about.
Well, this is what he's saying is 110,000 to 220,000 deaths could be equated to adverse events.
Right,
Correct?
right.
Is Christian supposed to call in at a certain time?
No,
Okay.
he's not supposed to call in at all.
Oh, okay.
You never know, though. He answered. I will say this about Christian, and I emailed him and told him I enjoyed the article, and was going to talk about it tonight and make it most part of the show tonight. And he emailed me back, and
Oh, cool.
said thanks, appreciate the heads up. And I said feel free to join in if you like, and
Yeah.
I would guess he probably wouldn't, but he's got if you look at his website.
I'm going to send him the Facebook link right now.
If you he's got it. Don't send. He's got it. He's got a couple of emails from me. He's good. He's good. But what was I going to say? Oh, he's got his wife and he do the business, the coaching, and they've got 4 beautiful kids too. So he's busy enough, I'm sure.
Yeah, I think number 9 is really worthy of discussion here.
It's mind-boggling, isn't it?
Yeah. They do not stop transmission or infection.
So what does it do?
I don't even know what to say.
What does it do then?
I don't. It makes people feel better, safe, psychologically.
Which there's a big need for.
It's a placebo.
Some
Well,
people
we
believe
talked
that
about
it could be
earlier.
that.
Is it just something to get out there that calms the waters? Because I don't know. I mean, I stopped paying attention to the numbers. Obviously there's been flare-ups in certain areas even after the vaccine came out. And, they can say it's a variant or, it's mutating or whatever, but you got to ask yourself the question, what's the point then? Right?
Yeah,
If it's not stopping it.
So maybe they're saying maybe lowers lowers the symptoms. I think they made that point. He made that point in there that it lowers the symptoms.
Yeah, but some people don't get any symptoms or get very few. And
do you have to pay for the vaccine?
I don't know because I haven't had it.
Does anybody, who knows if you have to pay for it? Jan, you said you took it. If you're still listening, did you and Doug have to pay for it? I'd be interested to know that.
Me too.
Number 10, people are still catching it, still getting COVID after being fully vaccinated. Washington,
Yeah, well, 9 and 10 are about the same, right?
Yeah, Washington State, New York, Michigan, Hawaii, several other states.
Okay. Yeah, he's got a lot of numbers here.
Tina's saying that not if you're on Medicare, no payment.
Got you. Number 11.
Thank you, Tina.
Number 11 is the overall death rate from COVID is 99.74%. So what's the point?
Right. This is what
Doug, thank you, Doug. Did not have to pay for it.
Okay.
Two of my friends in Colorado.
Yeah, I wonder if it has anything to do with the state that you live in or whatever, My dad's a senior, he got it. Got the vaccinations
Right.
through the VA.
So I'm not going to, yeah. Yeah. So he doesn't have to pay.
About,
right.
Right.
So we're not going to, number 11 is what we just said, the overall death rate. We're not going to go to number 12 because that's too political. But the average age of death from COVID is the same as the average age of death, which is 78 or 79.6 years old.
this might be a little on the political side, but early on I was looking at these numbers and months ago, and I was looking at death rates. First, I started with the state of Pennsylvania where I live. The death rate from 1990 to 2000, or from 2019 to 2020 was the same. Okay. Might have been even a little lower. The overall total death rate. Then I looked at it on a national basis, and it was virtually the same. Okay. So, he's, even though you don't want to talk about number 12, you got to, if you're a rational thinking person, you got to go, all right. I mean, if the death rate's not increasing, and there's a 99.76 or 74% rate of survival for those infected,
Right.
what's really going on?
Agreed. I get that point.
And
point.
then
Hopefully people are thinking about that.
Then you reverse engineer and you start thinking about, okay, what could be motivating this? I'm a little suspicious to begin with. And it always goes back to the money. Okay.
Well, we need a reset. That's what this is a perfect reason for it.
You mean a societal reset?
Well, that's what they keep talking about is the great reset.
Yeah, we're not
And that's
talking
to
about
what?
that.
We're not talking politics. I'm sorry.
Well, my question to that would be to reset to what?
Yeah, we're not going
'Cause
there.
Okay.
Yeah.
I
Okay.
didn't get that memo either. I'm sorry.
I got a lecture about an hour before I called in. That's all.
I wouldn't call it a lecture.
No, it was a pep talk.
There you go. Number 13. Now, so from the beginning, this is kind of, I'm like, from the beginning in the whole deal, Fauci has flip-flopped. In the beginning, it's no big deal. Don't need to worry about it. Don't need to do anything. It's a big deal. We need to shut things down. You don't need to wear a mask. Now you do need to wear a mask. I'm at a
Maybe two.
I'm at a Washington Nationals game, not wearing a mask, sitting next to people. Now let's wear 2 masks. And people are.
Yep.
And now number 13 is he and 6 others own patents in the Moderna vaccine.
Mm-hmm.
Hello?
He who?
Fauci.
Oh, okay.
So
Well, NIH and NIAID claims joint ownership of Moderna's vaccine.
so
All you can say is,
the NIH?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, come on.
Yep.
Those something to think about. Just something to think about.
Well, it's called conflict of interest. It's as simple as that. I mean, anybody who is espousing protocols for people's health and safety should not be connected to any of this stuff. Should be totally, separate from any of this. That's my opinion.
Yeah. Conflict
So
of interest ring a bell?
Yeah, I just said that. So
I know.
how logical is it for a adult to see this kind of information and just ignore it? Just a question.
Illogical.
Right. So the article, in my opinion, is to make people think.
I believe that
Right.
is I believe that is his that's what he was trying to achieve,
Yeah,
to get people
which
to
is
think.
not, I mean, that's not. There's nothing nefarious about that. It's just, take a look at this, make your own decisions.
Number 14. He's on the hot seat for a gain of function research. Did anybody know before they read this what gain of function was?
No.
It's where scientists attempt to make viruses gain functions, i.e., make them more transmissible and deadlier.
Right.
What? What? Research to make viruses deadlier?
Yeah.
So he says sounds unethical, right? Yeah. How could that be helpful? The government said agreed, banned the practice. This is you can do your own research. Always.
Yeah.
Do your own research.
But-
I don't believe
But
anybody. But they farmed it
Yeah.
out to China then.
Yeah, and got $600,000 to do it.
I think it was more than that. As it turns out, the article says 600,000.
Right, but probably well over that. So you got to, again, a thinking person, point A to point B, 2 + 2. What would be the purpose, the ultimate purpose to make a virus more deadly?
Germ warfare. To kill people.
Or find a new and improved drug, vaccine, whatever, pharma, to
Okay.
protect everybody.
Okay. So that's a positive. Right?
Well, yeah, you could say it's a positive, but
Right.
why would you
could.
want to expedite the ability to make a virus more? Why would you want to do that? Synthetically.
Right.
I'm not a scientist. I'm just asking the question.
Well, we know it goes on.
Right. So who stands to if you look at this particular number 14 and you go, okay, they got 600,000 from China. All right. This particular virus originated in China. Can we even remotely politically correctly connect the dots?
We're not going to.
No, but I think this is what happens is that people don't want to have those conversations.
We're providing information for food for thought.
Right.
Number 15, the virus continues to mutate. I mean, so
It's mutating every 10 hours, according to Gert Vanden Bosch.
that guy's a big deal.
Yep.
That guy's a big deal. That's a good guy to research. I think number 16 gets into the whole, another whole can of worms, but is censorship and the complete absence of scientific debate. Both sides of the coin debating each other.
Well,
There has
yeah,
been
but
none.
Initially, the term "we're using the science" was the catch-all phrase to shut people up,
Right.
right? And now nobody's getting access to the actual science.
Right. Yeah, there was no debate. Like it says here, there was no debate about the lockdowns, mask wearing, social distancing. vaccine efficacy and safety trials, how to screen for susceptibility to vaccine injury, therapeutics. Therapeutics is a whole nother deal, man. Here's a question I have. I mean, ivermectin, there was a big lawsuit they were refusing to allow the use of ivermectin and also of hydroxychloroquine when it works. And they've admitted it works now. How do you reconcile that to the people? How can both sides of the aisle not be beyond enraged about that?
Well, I think in a nutshell, going back to my conversation with these guys the other night, one of the comments that was made was, we start talking about shutdowns and everything. And it's a valid comment. We had to do the shutdowns because our healthcare system couldn't handle the intake, right? Was overloaded or was going to be overloaded, was going to be stressed to the point of no return.
Right. Never happened.
Okay. So some places it did. Okay. It was really a serious problem. But now, the whole vaccine was rushed out to prevent that from happening in the future. And we're finding out now that the vaccine doesn't prevent,
right,
the getting sick, according to this. Doesn't prevent it. The transmission of the of the virus.
So why?
Right. Right.
We're gonna. I don't know. We're done with that. We're pretty much done with this. Then, I got something else I want to talk about that I found about in the world of sports. How about that?
Yeah, let's get off of this.
Number 17, the world's leading vaccinologist, Gert Vanden Bosch. Just check it out. Check out the article. Take a look at it. Make your decision. Do what you want to do, but be informed. I guess is our message. Be informed.
And that's your public service.
My PSA for this week. Right. I think it was a great article, and he provided good good links to back up to back it up. So, good stuff.
And there's probably a similar set of 18 reasons why you should, produced by somebody else.
I'm sure.
Right? So read them all. That's what I say.
Read them all. So I was talking to a friend who used to compete. So the whole transgender in athletics. Okay.
Right.
I don't know anybody who doesn't agree with the fact that trans men have a monstrous advantage over women in athletics. Does anybody disagree with that?
Not here.
Right? And so, I mean, there was somebody in the MMA that was, I mean, they were hurting people. It was dangerous. They were hurting people. You got the track stuff up in the Northeast. I think you see the opportunity for it to ruin women's sports. I mean, where's the opportunity for girls in sports? And if it gets to the Olympic level and things like that, then what?
Well, the whole term inclusivity, if that's a term, inclusion, whatever, is going to backfire because you've got girls that want to compete in girls' sports that are not going to compete in girls' sports. They're just going to stop.
Right.
So the numbers are the overall participation numbers will fade in girls sports.
It'll take a while, right?
Yeah, but
It'll-
I mean,
but-
I just saw. I don't. Did you see that article about the NCAA?
No.
They made a statement about how they've worked hard to create a pathway for inclusivity of transgender athletes. So, what does that mean? Are you going to have females? You're going to have males on the female basketball team? In the biological males on a female basketball team that competes for the NCAA title?
It's mind-boggling to me. Not to mention that I did some little bit of research the other day about it, and 0.4% of adults in the United States identify as transgender.
0.004%. It's like 4/10 or 0.04%.
No, I think it's 0.4%. A little bit less than 0.5%. That's what I thought it was.
Okay.
In decimals, it's 0.004. That's 0.4 of a percent.
Right.
So I don't understand, it's what we don't want to get into, but I don't, who are we doing this for? This massive number of people?
No.
No. And it's not fair. It's not fair to the girls.
Yeah. I just think there's such a, I'm losing my train of thought here. There's a aversion for adults to have adult conversations about these topics for some reason.
Yeah, because it's shut up, Todd. I got that. Yeah, well, because it's been, because if you voice any opposition to it,
Mm-hmm.
you're
not nice.
a bad person.
Yeah. So let me do a little interview with you, Jim. Got time for that?
Sure.
Okay. We touched on this before. Maybe this will illustrate a point. Okay. So how many generations has your family been in this country?
I
Do you
don't
know?
No. 4?
Okay. So where?
Well, you know what? Let me
What's
put it this way. My grandfather was born in 1900. And I believe he was born here. So that's going to put it right at least at 4, right? Ulysses,
you would be third.
30 years. I would be, I'd be
Third
third.
generation.
Yeah. Yeah. So there's my
Right.
son, there's me, there's my dad, there's my grandfather. Right.
Well, that's 4 generations. But when you say how many generations have been here, you're third. So because there was, your grandfather and your father before you.
Ulysses
Both
was
born
is in my tree.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah.
So you could illustrate a pretty good synopsis of the history of your family in the United States, where you could say, yeah, my grandfather was born here and he did this and he did that and his life was like this, and then my dad's life was like this, and now my life is like this, right?
Right.
And my son's like life is like this. I think we could all do that to some degree, but nobody ever does. Nobody ever talks about, the history of their family with the amount of pride that there is in all of that. And it goes back to what I was talking about earlier is how much do you know about, your neighbors or people you associate with from that perspective? People even talk about that kind of stuff anymore?
I don't think a lot of people do, I don't know. Let's just say my good friends here, I don't know much more about them than if I do know their parents. I can think of 3 or 4 off of the top of my head where I know their parents, friends here where I know their parents, right? So the equivalent of yeah. And I don't know anything much past that.
Well, I think
about
when
them.
people do talk in those terms, they start to identify on deeper lines, right?
Right.
And it makes the level of communication a little more genuine. And I think, going back to what I said earlier, I just don't think we talk to each other enough anymore. And that's, part of the reason all this stuff is
Well,
happening.
that's social media, because we text.
Right.
We text or make a post. Right?
Yeah. And then you can be anonymous after you do that.
Right. We text or make a post. And you talk about being knowing your family's history and what'd you say, the pride in that. You know, I don't think I wonder if the next generation after me is thinking about what I said to when my son got engaged last year. I talked to he and his fiance shortly thereafter, and she said, "Are you ready for grandkids?" And I'm like, "Yeah, I am." I'm like, I want a grandson, and then as many granddaughters as you want to put out there. And why do I want a grandson?
Carry on the name.
To carry on the name. My brother's got a son that's going to carry on the Grant name, but I want one that carries on from my side, right? I wonder how many in the next. I'm a boomer. We're the end of the boomers, right?
Yeah.
I want to say what's the boomers? 55 or later?
No, the
59?
boomers were 45 to 62.
Okay, yeah, to 62. So I'm
born between 45 and 62.
Right. I had it backwards. I was backwards. So I was 59 in 59. So yeah, my brother is the end of the boomers, 61. And I wonder if that next generation feels that same way. I want a grandson. I want to carry the name. I want the name to be carried on. I wonder if they still think that way. Does Tim think that way?
Well, yeah, but he's got a daughter. So, I'm not sure if there's going to be
right
a grandson
but did it?
there.
Did you ever have that discussion? I want a son. I wanted a son first.
Yeah, that's how it went for us. We weren't, it was back in the day where nobody really knew. There's probably a way to do it, but in the mid 80s, people weren't really looking to find out what the sex of the baby was before it was born.
Right.
So for us, it was,
everything was a big surprise then.
Yeah. Right. And he was born first. And then of course, Caitlin was born a few years later, but I always was told that was the millionaire's family, and nobody ever showed up with $1 million check for me. So that's not real.
What, the millionaire's family, a son and then a daughter?
Yep.
Yeah. Yeah, I think my family missed out on that too.
Yeah. So, I think I should be complaining to somebody about that, on social media and see what happens.
Yeah, you're gonna. I think you got that. You've got that personal responsibility to disease. It didn't happen, so you're just gonna have to be responsible for it, no matter what.
Right on.
Right.
I was talking to somebody recently. Maybe it was you. We're talking about different generations now, but Did this happen when you were going to school, like in high school? I can remember if you had an exam or something and a test of whatever, and you turned it in, at the end of the class, and then a day or two later, the teacher would post the grades. They used to do it right at the end of the class, and they would take this page with everybody's name on it and their grade next to it, or the percentage, right?
Right.
If it was 100%.
Right.
And and post it right next to the door. So when you walked out, you looked at it, right?
And
So that
everybody's
means
like,
everybody
Begley's an idiot.
looked at it. Yeah,
There was some shame
And-
involved in it.
correct. You couldn't do that today.
It's kind of like with
You'd get sued.
like food stamps. Just give them a credit card, and they don't have
Yeah,
to
right
fill out
on.
the shame.
And whatever they call it.
Oh, yeah,
But,
because you don't have to go collect it. You don't have to go get your check.
You don't have to hand out a stamp.
Right.
You just give them something that looks like a Visa card.
Load that thing.
And there's no embarrassment, right? I get all that, but where's the accountability anymore? I guess is what I'm putting out there.
That's a whole nother deep subject, personal responsibility. It's not.
But I think it takes personal responsibility to decide whether or not you're gonna be vaccinated under the circumstances that we're facing right now.
Yeah, I mean, it is. It's up. It's up to the individual. So
Yep. What are you
they're-
going to do if they
They're,
say,
they're making it sound like if you don't get vaccinated, then you're not a responsible person. Is-
correct?
right.
And what about the scenario where, okay, you're not vaccinated, you can't get on a plane? Or you're not vaccinated, you can't come into the office?
That's why I
Or you-
said, as long as it's a choice, everything's good.
You're not vaccinated, you can't drive a company vehicle.
Or you can't rent a car, so you can't
Right.
fly. Or
I don't think we're going to get there. I mean, I think people are talking about that. I don't.
not in Florida.
It's there. I think there's going to be. Well, I think so. We're going to get into the Constitution, I guess. I think states' rights are going to start playing a bigger part in things, as evidenced by the sanctuary 2A states.
How would that happen with the laws about commerce within states? That's one of the
No idea.
yeah.
I
Well,
think,
like if you're a driver, a transportation employee, you have to take, a DOT. You have to get a DOT physical, right?
right.
They could make that mandatory for those guys
Yeah.
as part of the process to maintain a commercial driver's license,
Right. Well, we're going to
which
get it.
would affect interstate commerce.
Yep. Sure would. Well, hell, they did it in Florida. They stopped us. They stopped you coming from Alabama into Florida at one point last year. Where were you?
Physical
What were
stops.
you? Where were you? What were you doing? You had to get off at the way station area, and the state police were set up, and they were using citizens to, as well, I believe, or I don't know who they were.
I think they questioned, but I don't think they kept you from coming in, did they?
Well, I think it depended on your answer. I think it depended on your answer, and I I just said what we just said what they wanted to hear.
Yeah.
So, well, listen, Daniel, again, I appreciate you.
Hey, it always goes by so fast.
It does. Yeah, we're at
Probably
the,
because I'm flapping my gums the whole time.
well, we're pretty good at that together. So maybe next week that's kind of the reason we got into this tonight is that there's no college basketball going on.
Right.
College baseball's not going to draw a lot of people. Well, I'm not sure this is going to draw a lot of people. But,
Well,
college baseball isn't a high fan sport. There's no football going on. And pro sports are completely. I meant to get the picture, the meme put up where they show two NBA guys. You can go out on the court and sweat all over each other and whatever, no mask and everything. But once you go in, sit on the bench, you got to social distance and have a mask on and whatever. It's just kind of ludicrous, the whole situation, and the way that why can't we just, out of entertainment, which would include sports, why can't we just leave politics out of it so we can enjoy it without the politics? Why?
I don't know.
Why the politics?
Because everybody seems to have an opinion, right?
Because
And some people think their opinions are greater than others.
John Schreiber, who I thought was going to call in tonight, he used to co-host the show with me, and I was on his show, the Underground Pub Show, a few times back, and he actually got questions from people back in the day. I guess I just found this out today. They're like, "How can you do the show with him when you guys are so different politically?" And he was like, because at the end of the day, that's not, we put our differences aside.
Okay, so I'm going to give you a little bit of homework for next week. You and I may have talked about this guy, but since you're wearing a 1776 hat, I'm going to throw this into the mix. Samuel Whittemore. Do you know that name from any previous discussions we've had?
Familiar.
It kind of, no.
Okay, Samuel Whittemore was 78 years old when he became the oldest known colonial combatant in the American Revolutionary War. Okay?
Okay. 79?
78.
78.
Okay? So he was born in 1696 in Charlestown, Massachusetts. So here's a little synopsis. Okay?
Yep.
This guy, if they did another rendition of Patriot, they should have done this guy. Okay.
Right.
On April 19th, 1775, British forces were returning to Boston from the battles of Lexington and Concord. Okay, pretty important battle. The opening engagements of the war. On their march, they were continually shot at by American militiamen. Whittemore was in his fields when he spotted an approaching British relief brigade under Earl Percy, sent to assist the retreat. Whittemore, 78 years old, loaded his musket and ambushed the British Grenadiers of the 47th Regiment of Foot from behind a nearby stone wall, killing one soldier. He then drew his dueling pistols, killed a second grenadier, and mortally wounded a third. By the time Whittemore had fired his third shot, a British detachment had reached his position. Whittemore drew his sword and attacked. He was subsequently shot in the face, bayoneted numerous times, and left for dead in a pool of blood.
And didn't
He
die.
was found by colonial forces trying to load his musket to resume the fight. He was taken to a doctor who perceived no hope for survival. However, Whittemore recovered and lived another 18 years,
God.
dying
the-
at the age of 96.
So the colonial forces saved him.
His own forces got to him and saved him.
Oh, okay.
Well,
But the British left
the
him
British
for dead.
didn't.
Yeah.
No, the British left him for dead. They thought they killed him dead.
You know what that reminds me of? That reminds me of in Braveheart. You know the father and son in Braveheart, the big redhead,
Yeah, Hamish.
and the father when he gets the arrow in the chest during battle, and it's like, and then just breaks it off.
Yeah.
Breaks it off and keeps on fighting.
Yeah.
I think about that every time I get a paper cut.
Big
Yeah.
baby.
Right? I'm like, ow. I'm like, oh yeah,
Yeah.
you'd have been a man's man then, wouldn't you?
Yeah.
Yeah, you're a man's man.
Big difference. Right.
Oh, life.
All right.
Life has
well, I'll leave
changed.
you with that.
Thanks,
Yeah,
man.
I'll leave you with that. Yeah.
I
it's always
appreciate
good.
it.
So you guys have a
You know, there's some late joiners here. Joshua Hendricks, Joyce Brown, Jeff Lean, what's going on? Cindy, what's up? Thank you, everybody, for watching tonight. Remember, Rev Essentials, if you want to get your health together, revessentials.net. If you want to concentrate on your business, what you opened your business to do, call Tell Staffing and HR. Let them do the background work, the back end work. They're good at it. You're not. Let them do what they do. You do what you do. Thanks for joining us. We will see you next week on Play Harder Radio. Have a great week, guys. Great weekend. We'll see you next week. Bye.